Hello and welcome to our hot topic of homeschooling. I'm Megan. Jackie and Jennifer and I have spent the last few weeks doing some research about this topic, kind of analyzing the reasons that families choose homeschooling both before the COVID crisis and during the COVID crisis. We're going to be going over reasons why people choose homeschooling, what the benefits of homeschooling are, what some of the unique challenges of homeschooling are. We have a quiz for you guys at the very end, as well as some hot tips on how to best go about homeschooling if that's a choice that a family is considering.
So first of all, we wanted to give a little bit of context and give you a little bit of the background of homeschooling, why families choose to homeschool, and at the end you'll see some of the things that families can do to be a little bit more effective. So why do families homeschool? First, it is a constitutional right under due process as established by the Supreme Court to be able to school your own children. States do make the guidelines, and all states have varying degrees of oversight. Some states are a lot more strict than others, and California kind of lies in the middle. In California, a parent must file an annual affidavit that establishes a private school in order to homeschool your children. And parents do not need to be credentialed. Due to the ease, however, a lot of families now are using private schools, online, independent learning, or charter schools to educate their child from home and have some support. And specifically, why do families homeschool their children? Some of the research that I did, according to Jolly and Matthews, there is no one reason why families choose to homeschool their children. It is a stereotype that only religious families homeschool their children. In the last 3 decades, we've seen a big decline in religious reasons being the main factor. What we are seeing now is that families are falling into the 3 categories, and these are the reasons why they're homeschooling. First, it's what curriculum is being taught, and families wanting a little bit more control about what their children are learning. Pedagogy, or how children are receiving that information, depending on like learning styles and things like that. And we're also seeing where being an influencing factor, that flexibility of location, time, as well as speed of information being delivered to children. This is a little bit of a word cloud that I created using some of the key things from our interview with a homeschooling veteran of the reasons why some families are homeschooling now. And one of the big things that's changing now is the emotional needs of children being a big reason why families are choosing to homeschool. Megan?
Okay, so building on what Jackie was saying about the reasons that families choose homeschooling, there are a lot of unique benefits, to homeschooling. And as we go through those benefits, I want to encourage everyone to think about our reflection question. Would you consider homeschooling yourself, or would you want to encourage a friend to consider homeschooling? There are some main benefits of homeschooling that families have discovered, and reasons why families were choosing homeschooling even before the COVID crisis. Thank you. So one of the main benefits of homeschooling is choice. A lot of families chose to homeschool because, kind of like Jackie said, they want to choose the curriculum that is being taught to their children. Perhaps they want to include their personal values more into their children's education than they feel like would be available during a traditional school setting. Homeschooling allows families to have a flexible schedule. For example, if a student is really invested in a project in a traditional school setting and the designated amount of time for that project has expired, that student is expected to kind of pack up, shift gears, and move on to the next topic. Where with homeschooling, families can allow as much time as a child needs to really understand a concept fully. They don't have to necessarily make their day look like a traditional school day. Students can spend time in areas that are interesting to them. Homeschooling allows for individualized instruction. So not only can families design curriculum that is individualized for their children and their students, they can actually spend one-on-one time with their learners, making sure that they master concepts that might be more difficult for them, or explore a lot of different avenues for learning until they find one that really works for their student. Again, families can also include their value systems in their students' education. It allows families choice as far as how often students are participating in like social activities outside of the home or within their family unit as they have siblings and that kind of stuff as well. As far as homeschooling during the COVID crisis is concerned, a lot of families have chosen homeschooling as an alternative to either the traditional school setting for fear of the for fear of COVID, or they have chosen homeschooling as an alternative to the online educational resources that their public school has provided. And throughout this crisis, homeschooling allows families to educate their children without having to worry about things like wearing masks or social distancing because they're all within their family unit. So they can really focus on their learning without having to worry about some of the biological concerns that go along with a pandemic. They've discovered a lot of resources that maybe they would not have been paying attention to before. So there's a lot of online resources through like Zoom meetings and digital learning platforms that families are just kind of discovering how great they are since they have been experimenting with homeschooling during this time. So in short, there's a lot of benefits to homeschooling. It increases family time. It allows for individualized instruction. It allows flexibility of scheduling, and it allows students to learn in an environment where they feel supported, particularly after failures. One of the articles mentions that students who were homeschooled report having higher self-worth and higher belief in themselves because they didn't have to deal with any kind of bullying situations or feeling like they were being punished for failing, because at home it's less of a focus about grades and more of a focus on actual learning. So with that, we'll go into some of the challenges of homeschooling.
So some of the challenges about homeschooling are the self-doubt. So as home educators, you need to be able to help your child set some goals that will help them succeed with what is being taught at home. The goals are to be planned with the child so that the child also knows what he or she may need to be working on. And the good thing about this is, like Megan mentioned, is that you're basically moving at your own pace. So you are going to motivate your child to succeed, and you also want them to be um, not overly stressed about what the material is that the child has to be learning at the time. So the challenges can also be conflict with the siblings. So if you have more than one child at home, finding that right time of balance between one and the other can be a bit difficult. So the best thing to do is to help your child or your children build those relationships between one another. You know, maybe you want to sit down with your older child first and then kind of just go over whatever needs to be taught for that day, and then maybe have a break, and then that child can go and help your younger child. So that way they're kind of bonding at the same time, but they're also helping one another, and that just kind of alleviates a little bit of the stress between the parent and the children. There are also a lot of resources out there, such as books and articles on the websites, that can help you understand better how to manipulate those challenges at home. Another thing is the socialization aspect of this. If you have, for example, an only child, the best thing to do is to kind of give that child some time to spend with their friends. I know that during these situations at the time can be a little bit hard, but maybe, you know, having like a Zoom meeting or just meeting online with their friends can be a little bit more beneficial for them because they're socializing in a way. Another thing would be allowing your child to volunteer, somewhere at your local neighborhood, whatever it is that's being offered at the time. That way they can have that interaction with people besides just being at home. And lastly, one of the biggest challenges for some people at home are the curriculum. And the curriculum is basically going to be done at your own pace. So you don't want to cram all the material to your child all at once, because that will just become very highly overwhelming. And the best thing to do is to kind of chunk the curriculum into little pieces. You are going at your own pace, and the best thing to do would be to just present one thing at a time. And if you realize that your child is having a difficult time with it, then spend more time on those areas. So the behavior can also be impacted with this when there's too much stress, or the overwhelmness just kind of increases over time. So as you notice your child, you want to just take that little space in between and have them, get a little bit of the fresh air. So some of the differences between the traditional and homeschool are basically all of the things that I just mentioned. So basically it can be a bit challenging at times, but using the resources that are beneficial and helpful can also be a great way to alleviate that stress and just find those different strategies and ways that you can help your child. And that is basically it for the challenges.
So based off of the interview that we conducted with a 15-year homeschooling veteran, I wanted to give some tips and tricks on what families can expect, especially those who never saw themselves in this position. And one of the main ones is kind of going along the lines of just parenting and expecting the unexpected. Make sure not to do it alone, and to find a support system, whether it's in person or online or in your community or through the school that you are using to homeschool. Knowing that bad days are going to happen, starting slowly, finding those academic holes as time goes on, teaching to the whole child both emotionally and academically, knowing that it doesn't need to be structured in one way or another, but to have that flexibility and to play around with things, making sure that you are involved as a parent and not letting the child do everything on their own, playing and going out to nature and using a lot of different resources that aren't just book or worksheets, and to make sure that time management, responsibility, accountability, and other life skills are being taught. And Megan?
All right, we want to invite you guys to participate in our quiz. We've got a little quiz about homeschooling. If you just follow the link, there's some questions there for you to kind of check your understanding about the reasons why people homeschool, the benefits, and the unique challenges of homeschooling. We thank you guys for being with us.
Thank you. And here are our sources. They've all been linked in case any of them sound interesting. Even our interview has been linked in case you want to go in and find out some more information. Thank you so much for watching.